like an egg. He goes, Mr. Tree, you look like an egg with eyebrows. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jared. While we're talking about this, I'm going to go ahead and roll a video of me painting Mei and Totoro. I think it'll probably be a little bit better for you guys to watch while I'm talking. That way you don't have to look at my ugly face. We're going to go ahead and talk today about people who are both artists and something else. Today I want to talk about how I juggle being both a teacher and an artist. To preface everything, I'm a Spanish teacher in high school here in Texas, which carries a lot of weight in my daily life. Teaching is something that I really enjoy doing. I find a lot of happiness in doing that. I really love the kids. I really love spending time with them, building relationships with them, and being able to talk about like what their personal life is like, and how they grew up, and or how they're growing up, and what it's like for them on a more personal level. I think that's a big part of the job, and especially in order to get them motivated to learn, which we'll talk about here in a second. But for the rest of my day, not only am I an artist, but I'm also a father of 3 kids who are awesome and hilarious. And I'm the husband of an amazing wife that we've been together for 9 years, and we've loved almost every minute of it. Now, you know, marriage is difficult at times, but my wife is amazing, and I'm very blessed to be with her. And hopefully she feels the same way about me. But it can be oftentimes it can be a really difficult thing to juggle those two things, especially when I'm very goal oriented with my artistic future and career. There's a lot of pursuits and endeavors that I'm chasing on the artistic side of my job and my career juggling. But there's also important aspects of my teaching position that require a lot of time and meticulous thought and care and love as well. So I thought we'd talk about how those two things correlate, how they can oppose each other sometimes, and how they can actually help each other sometimes as well. The first thing I want to talk about is how school has kind of changed in the past, I don't know, 14 years since I've graduated high school. Um, it doesn't feel that long ago. I guess if I tell my kids that I graduated 14 years ago, that's almost an entire lifetime for them. I teach mainly sophomores and freshmen, so they're 14, 15, 16 in that age range. And a lot of them are really, really funny. Like I said, that's one of my favorite parts of the job, is being with them. One of the students that I had last year, just off the top of my head, him and I were really close. Like we got along together really well, just joked around a lot. And he told me last year when I shaved my beard off that I look like an egg. He goes, Mr. Tree, you look like an egg with eyebrows. When I got home and told Ruth about that, she got a pretty big kick out of it. She thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, kids can be pretty ruthless, but they're also really funny. Sometimes they can be hurtful, but other times they're just funny in kind of an honest way, and that's an example of that. But being able to be with kids that age, it gets me involved in what's going on in pop culture, especially with things going on like anime. Because growing up, like, yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z, I watched Akira, a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies, I was really big into. But I was never like, I never got in. I watched Naruto a little bit, like the first season maybe. It wasn't, like, I liked it, but it wasn't like, oh, I gotta go watch the next season whenever it comes out. I was never really big into it until recently, in the past few years. I've had a lot of students tell me and recommend to me like different shows, and I got really big into Attack on Titan a couple of years ago. Finally watched the last season when that came out. Or like everybody's really big into Jujutsu Kaisen right now, and I'm on season 2 of that, so don't spoil it for me. But Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm really big into Demon Slayer because a lot of my students really enjoy watching Demon Slayer. So that also feeds into the artistic endeavors that I do because I like to do a lot of fan art, right? So I like to go in and create pieces for the things in the shows that I really like. So that kind of helps each other out. Those two kind of like correlate with each other and lift each other up. Whereas there's other parts of the job of being like a teacher and an artist that oppose each other, right? Especially when it comes to time management. So as a teacher, I'm having to grade a lot, right? I have 150 students this year, which actually is the best year that I've had. It's the least number of students that I've ever had while teaching in the last 4 years. A couple years ago, I had 220 students, and that was rough. Um, but having to lesson plan and get everything ready, trying to meticulously create presentations and lessons and games and other interactive activities for the students to learn and to grow requires a lot of time and thought and effort on my part, which I love to do, but it also it can interfere with the time that I have to spend with my family, and not only spend with my family, but the time that I have to do artwork as well whenever I get home. So a lot of the artwork that I do, a lot of the time that I invest in doing projects and things like that for my artistic career, I do on the weekends whenever I have the time, or whenever I get home from work after school. Make sure the kids have done their homework and got eaten dinner, had a little bit of fun, maybe watch a little bit of TV, go play outside, and then we get them ready for bed, right? All the nightly routines, and after that, I finally have a little bit of time to sit down and maybe create or work on a project that I'm doing. And that's sort of how my nightly endeavor or my daily routine is as a teacher slash artist. So I use the time that I have to work on the things that I think are most important as an artist and as a teacher, and most importantly as a father and husband, right? Because the family is the reason I do all of this. So, um, uh, and well, I mean, even if I wasn't married or had a family of my own, I think I would still be an artist. There's some aspect to it that I really, really love, and comes naturally to me a little bit more than I think other things would. But it's funny because being married, Ruth has definitely pushed me to want to create more and to pursue the art world and to be creative, and that's something that I really really love about her and really really appreciate for of her, and she really is like my little cheerleader. She's 4'11", so she's pretty tiny. But yeah, so those are kind of how they oppose each other as well, right? So um, I do love teaching. It's something that I've always wanted to do. Maybe not always, but it's always something that I've thought about doing since maybe middle school, high school. I've thought that I would be a good teacher, and I've always thought that I would be hopefully a good role model for students to follow and a good example for them. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to get into teaching. And teaching has become difficult. I think it's hard for me to say because I've only been teaching for 4 years, but from when I was in high school, it's very different, right? Cell phones, smartphones specifically, were just becoming a thing, and social media was just starting to become like involved and more open with pop culture and things like that. More people were starting to use it outside of like the college population, but like mostly students use cell phones for texting, right? And that was a problem in the classroom. Like we were all guilty of it, right? And the teachers were always getting on to us about putting them away or like trying to stop hiding, trying to have us stop hiding them under our desks and things like that. But now it seems like the youth is always involved in social media. They are highly invested in everything social media and in the digital world, especially things like TikTok, which I love TikTok. I think it's hilarious. I think there's a lot of things that the app is really useful for, especially TikTok, especially Snapchat. Instagram's another big one. Um, and all of those platforms, there's a really positive aspect to them, right? But at an early age where they don't necessarily have the best priorities for the responsibilities, it can become a struggle between teachers and students to actually have students be interested in what they're learning about and be invested in their futures and the work that they need to do in order to graduate and be successful in the future. Um, and that's one of the things that I've noticed is, and that's really hard for me, is that about 30 to 40% of my students, and I've noticed across all teachers, maybe not all teachers, but I would say most teachers, they just, these 30-40% of students, the student population will not do any work. No matter what we do, no matter what cool games and activities I put on for them in the classroom, no matter how funny or interesting. I mean, I teach Spanish, so it's not ever super interesting. The cultural aspects of Spanish are really, really interesting. But it's hard for me to want a teenager to, or it's hard for me to get a teenager to want to care about learning another language. The students that are mature enough to understand that they really need to have another language in their life, especially Spanish, being in Texas where half the population speaks it, and it would be like a great advantage for them to learn it. Those students that understand that are very few and far between. Or and there's other students who know that they need to pass the class, but they don't really care about Spanish, and they do their work too. And they tell me that they love me and my class. But there's students that no matter what I do, no matter what activity I give them, they will just not do work, and that's about 30 to 40% of my student population. And I've seen that with other teachers as well, in the same high school and other high schools among the nation. I see it all the time on TikTok, other teachers complaining about students that are just not doing work, and it's really difficult. For me, it's almost kind of like it's spiritually demotivating, mentally demotivating. I'm the kind of person where I'll get up in front of a class and I have a smile on my face no matter what, right? I try and be that cheerful person that lets the students know that I'm happy to be there and happy to see them. I want them to see that. And each day that like goes by where students just are refusing to do work, um, it really, really like gnaws at you, you know? So it gets really, really hard to stay motivated to help those kids. And not only that, but that also affects my personal life as well, and my artistic capabilities or my artistic motivations as well. So sometimes taking that home with me, that heavy feeling of like, what can I do for these students or what can I do for these kids? It can really weigh on you and demotivate you in other aspects as well. And so that can be sort of hard for my artistic career and my artistic endeavors as well. But one of the things that I really like to focus on and that really changes my perspectives on things are my progression that I've seen within myself over the past few years, especially the past year. This is the first year that I've done comic conventions and sold and networked at comic conventions steadily, and I've done, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 shows, something like that. Have been really successful. I'm always creating more prints and more artwork for those shows to show off to people and to get people to be more involved in loving those kinds of things that we as artists do, and just getting to know more people, especially other artists. That's one of the things that I really love about being in the art community, is talking to other artists, fellow artists, and seeing what they're enjoying doing, or what they're keeping up with in modern art and things like that. Um, and so that's something that I've seen, and that's something that I can focus on as a positive side of doing art. Another thing is I won Spawnuary back in January, so I get to have my artwork on a cover of the comic book Spawn sometime soon. Um, and that's a huge win. That's door breaking for me, I feel like. So that's something that I get to focus on, and know that professionals have seen my work and chosen it out of thousands of artists um, to be the best, or what they think is the best. And that's really uplifting as well. Um, I think about like my personal achievements. We recently just moved out of an apartment that we were in for 9 years, and we're finally into a house that we're renting that we got for a really good price, and that has a huge backyard that our kids can play in, and so our family is enjoying every minute of being home. So that's a win. And everything is looking up. There's a lot of positive aspects that I can focus on to drive me. And there's a lot of goals that I have set that I want to do, and it's a lot, and it can be overwhelming. For example, I want to write and illustrate, and I'm in the process of writing and illustrating a children's book, and it's something that I've wanted to do since my daughter was 3, 4 years old, who is now 7. It's something that I really really want to do. There's other projects that I'm working on that I'm always constantly trying to network and do new shows. Figure out if it won't break the bank. I'm trying to expand my art shop online, but I'm not big enough to do it on Shopify yet. Um, so there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do and trying to get done. And sometimes it can be overwhelming and sometimes it can be daunting, but I have to remember about the things that I've already accomplished, so I know I can do these things in the future. Um, so, I mean, it's really important, this conversation, right? About people who have two sides of their life, or more sides, aspects, or facets of their life, right? People that wear several hats in their daily life, especially artists, right? Because a lot of us have to get recognized in the art world before we can pursue art full time. Um, but I will never complain about the journey that I've had to take in order to be where I am and to get where I want to be. I think that's a huge part of this whole thing, is enjoying the process, enjoying the way we're going, enjoying the things that we're needing to do in order to get where we want to go as artists. For me, my goals in the future are creating a portfolio for concept art, for character design and illustration. Like I said, I want to work on that website. I want to keep going with that. I gotta continue to increase following on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. There's a lot of things that I've been focusing on. That some things get left in the dust, and others I'm better at. But it's all just about chugging along and keeping going. So yeah, if any of you guys can relate to this sort of journey, if any of you can relate to being two or three things or four things at once, drop a like, give a comment, tell me how you feel, tell me how you're overcoming all the conflict and difficulties in your life. It's good to share. It's good to see other people who are in the same boat and who share the same struggles and who are trying to achieve the same or similar goals. So I really appreciate you guys. Make sure that you like the comment, subscribe, like the video. It really helps me out. And keep doing what you're doing. Work hard. Keep developing yourself personally and enjoy living. Thank you guys. Have a great week. Love you too. Bye.